Now, this latest report highlights a staggering number of people forcibly displaced from their homes around the world, 122.1 million. That's a new record in over a decade. Now, what do you think have been the main factors driving this increase?
Well, the numbers have been rising for 10 years consecutively now, increasing. And what's essentially driving this increase in forced displacement is conflict, violence, persecution, and instability across the world. It's not in just one place. We're seeing it from Latin America, across Africa, into Asia, and in Europe as well. So really, it's a failure, I think, by the international community to put in place the conditions for stability and peace in large parts of the world. And that means that people are being forced to flee.
The report reaffirms that low and middle income countries host a vast majority of refugees. Can you explain to us which countries saw the most significant increases in refugee burdens in the past year? And what kind of international support are most urgently needed to help these countries cope sustainably?
Well, as you say, it's true that the majority of refugees do stay close to home, and that means in lower or middle income countries. For example, large parts of Africa, in Asia, and in Latin America as well. Now, in terms of the overall situation on which areas are driving these increases, there are several large crises, large conflicts going on. Of course, a couple of years ago, we saw war breaking out in Sudan, and that's had a huge effect on that region. People have crossed the borders, for example, into Chad, into Egypt, into Ethiopia. But then you also have longer standing conflicts, for example, in Ukraine now, which broke out some years ago. And if you look at the situation in Afghanistan, that goes back many decades, and we're still seeing the impacts of that. But in terms of the most recent data, probably the situation in Sudan, but also in terms of internal displacement in Myanmar, in East Asia, and most recently in Democratic Republic of the Congo. These are some of the countries that have been producing the displacement that adds to these very large numbers.